asked me to start a security team there at our church. And so we started the security team, and we needed holsters, and went online, and it was around the time where Magpul had just released their Magpul dynamic videos,
Right.
and you had Chris Costa and you had Travis Haley running Raven Concealment holsters. And so I went on and I tried to buy some Raven holsters because I thought they looked really cool. And there was a long lead time, and I was like, you know what? I've always been one of the guys that always tinkered, in their garage. And so just went out there, started looking for kydex, and just started doing research and started building my own. And I started selling to my friends. I started selling to the security team there at our church. It's crazy. A lot of people ask me about the name. Where did Bravo come from? They think it's my last name or anything like that. It's not that. That's not the case at all. Our handles on the security team were Bravo. So we're, there was 5 or 6 of us, and it was Bravo 1, Bravo 2, Bravo 3. And so I just said, you know what? I'm just going to call it Bravo Holsters, man. I'm making them for my security team. They love them. And just put that name to it, and started, knocking on doors, John, believe it or not, man. Just a bunch of sweat equity, man. Cold calling, going to the local gun shops, telling them that I make these type of holsters, and I'd be willing to give you a holster if you wore it. And just send people my way. And things just started to flourish, started selling them on eBay, because I've always sold stuff on eBay. Before holsters, I was just selling knickknacks. And, things led to me going out there and getting a GoDaddy website, and started working with Corey and Erica, influencers, early influencers in our life. And things just took off, John, and I just grabbed a hold of it, and I just didn't let go, man. It was a great opportunity for me, and it was a godsend, man. I'm just blessed by it.
It's crazy because we both kind of got into the business around the same time, about 10 years ago. I was coming out of the finance business. I'd gone to the police academy. I was coming out of and I remember it was coming out of that era of the Magpul videos and the things like that. And conventional media, as we knew it, was kind of dying, right? It was on its way out. The DVDs and stuff, like, who buys a DVD now, right? So it was all kind of going by the boards. And it was an interesting time to get into the business. And we can look back and even remember companies and things that are no longer with us, right? So we can remember that time. And it's evolved so much, Rene, in that short window of time. You and I have seen people come and go, companies come and go. What you've managed to do with Bravo that's exciting and unique is you managed to get into a space, and this is what I love about you, that you had no business getting into. You had no business having success in it. You had no business even having more than a single employee, right? So how many employees are you up to now?
We've got close to 30 employees. And yeah, I didn't really have a business in it. I just saw an opportunity, John, and I took it, man. And, forget the naysayers, forget the people that said, you're crazy, man. You don't know what you're doing. You've never done a video before. You've never owned a business. I don't have an MBA. I didn't go to college, man. I was a mailman. I was delivering mail, getting home, and making holsters, man. And so staying up till 12, 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning trying to make a holster, and then having to wake up at 7 o'clock or 6 o'clock to be at work at 7. It was just, for me, it was just, you mentioned, we're still around. It's because we've grinded it out, man. And we didn't accept no for an answer. And it's whatever you want to call it, killer instinct or whatever it is, zero-sum game for me, whatever it is. But we just want to be the best, man. And, I just, every day I push myself, and I try to see how, we can just take it to that next level on a daily basis, John.
I got to ask, at what point did you know you had something? Like, you were like, I have a business here. Like, it's coming together. At what point did it hit you?
I think when FPS Russia called, man, and he said that he wanted to he really wanted to kind of like, use our gun holsters in one of his videos. I think his manager, he called us, and we were working with Corey and Erica at the time. And, Corey and Erica, they were small time. They never really took off. I think towards the end, yeah, they did their thing, and they were good. But I think the same people that were managing Corey and Erica were kind of I don't think they were the same people, but they kind of knew each other, and there was kind of like um, there was a connection there. So FPS Rush's manager called us, and he said he wanted to work with us. And I think that was the time where I was like, you know what, man, this is real. This is legit. I mean, somebody that gets millions of views. He was already getting millions of views on YouTube channel and or on his YouTube channel. So I think that was the time where it just really hit me. Like, we've got something here. This is for real. This is legit.
Yeah, there's always that moment in every business where you're like, okay, I got something here.
Mm.
It's going to become something. And it might not necessarily mean dollars in your pocket, but it's kind of an aha moment, right? And you're just like, people are paying attention and people are listening. It's one of those things that I feel is pivotal in a business to acknowledge it, to know when it happens, because that's what keeps you engaged and that's what keeps you moving forward. Now you have that aha moment for Bravo, and you transition to kind of what for lack of better words, bigger and better things. And it's one of those things, and in many ways, thank God, you kind of slide on from Corey and Erica. I know that they dealt with some very early drama in the business, and that stuff happens. I mean, it's
Sure.
it's part of the game.
Sure.
People, we're in such a loving business at the same time, such a business full of haters and all that stuff. So it's one of those things. But you live, you learn, you start to work with people you like, and you're figuring it out as you go. Your employees, I notice, have such a love for your business and for what you do. Where does your mindset come from, and where does that that work ethic? Where is it? Is it your upbringing? Is it something in your life?
Yeah, I think I was at the post office for 20 years, and that's it's a government job, and it's not really run well. I'm not going to sit here and badmouth people because I still know some people there, but it just wasn't good culture at the post office, and I think that's not, I'm not saying something that people don't know. I think government jobs are they're not there to make money. It is what it is. I'm not going to get into the whole thing, but I learned a lot from that. I also learned a lot from my pastor. He's one of my mentors, and we attend a good sized church, and I learned a lot from him as well. And I think it's also, there's just certain skills that you're born with, man. There's things that come natural to you, and one of the things that comes natural to me is giving people the benefit of the doubt, treating people the way I want to be treated. And I know it sounds cliche, and I know it sounds corny, but it's true, man. And I try to keep the culture here at Bravo very healthy, very healthy, and I want people to come into work and want to work. But at the same time, I'm not delusional. I know that we need to get things done. So I think it's a combination of both things. I think people want to be led, and they want to have somebody lead them, and they want somebody to be able to look at and also hang on their neck as well if need be. And so I just run a very open type of business here with my employees, and but at the same time, they know that no one's bigger than Bravo, and we're here to make Bravo better. And if that's not the case, then maybe this isn't the place for you. But it's our turnaround rate is super low. I mean, we've had people here from the beginning, man, and they're still here. And it's I don't keep them on because I pay them well or anything like that. They really just want to come in here and work for Bravo. I pay them well as well, right? But it's not. I've always been, John, the type of person that if I'm gonna give something, I don't tie anything to it, man. I give without asking anything in return. And I think initially it's a scary thing, but it goes a long way at the end, man. It really does.
Yeah, I think it's, you hit the nail on the head. It's rare today, especially in the firearms business. Like, I try to explain to a lot of people that want to get in this business, and I've explained to a lot of owners through the years, a lot of people aren't going to get rich working in the firearms business. There's not a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. So to owners, I've always pleaded with them, you have to make it fun. You have to make it exciting. You have to make it a family atmosphere. You have to make it a place that people want to work day in and day out. And I feel as companies grow, they lose a little bit of sight of that everybody's here because they love the business, they love working in an industry that pushes the country forward, that has a place in the pecking order of things.
Sure.
And I think that's what drives them. They're willing to walk through a desert and drink the sand with the right leadership. It's just there has to be that proper mindset and that proper leadership. And I feel like some owners and CEOs lose sight of that. You haven't, which is amazing and which is awesome in the first place.
Thanks. Yeah, man. And it's so true. One of the things is the people that we hire, I don't hire gun experts. I don't hire people that can, draw and shoot a target, 10 feet away in under a second. I don't run around people like that. What I look for is good people, man. I look for just good quality people. And you get somebody that's willing to just work for you and just break a sweat for you. They'll learn how to do almost anything, man. They really will. It's more character than anything. I sit down and when I interview people, they can come with, they can tell me that they went to college or they did this and that. For me, it's the vibe that I get. And one thing that I've learned, John, is hiring is probably the hardest thing, man. There's no magic pill in hiring. You don't know what you're getting, man, when you hire. I think firing is a lot easier because you know what you have and you know what you have to let go of. And so that's another thing too. I think a lot of people don't want to do the hard things. They don't want to fire, so they hold on to somebody that's bad for the company. Somebody that's a bad seed that festers, and now you've got clicks and stuff like that. We don't do that here, man. People start talking about management, it gets to management. People start talking about me and it's going to get to me. And slowly but surely, they feel like there's nothing there for them. Nobody wants to just jump on the boat with them as far as them just being just troublemakers or anything like that. And then they just slowly but surely, they just leave on their own, man, because there's none of that here. There really isn't.
Yeah, good vibes are infectious, just like bad vibes.
Exactly.
And I tell people all the time, I flip the script when I'm interviewed. So, I'm at a point in my career where I'll ask owners and I'll ask CEOs, I'll say, there's two types of owners. I'm going to figure out which one you are. There's owners that assume everybody in the room is smarter than them until proven otherwise. Then there's owners that think they're the smartest guy in the room. I can't work for the latter. I can work for the former. And the reason being is I need an owner that takes the approach of, I'm hiring you to cut my grass. If you do a great job cutting my grass, I'm going to keep you employed.
That's right.
I can't work for someone that's going to micromanage and belittle and berate the situation to the point of no return, because you can't work with that guy. And then I always flip the script on owners at some point in the interview, and I'll ask the question. I'll say, you have a beautiful facility. I wouldn't be in here in the first place interviewing, but there's two types of millionaires in the world. There's millionaires that put the yacht at the end of the dock and they just want to stare at the yacht. And then there's millionaires that want to take the yacht out and actually use it. And I usually tell them, I'll figure out what kind of millionaire you are along the way.
Yeah.
Because you have to know those things as an employee. And that's more of a management director level type question to ask an owner, because you want to see where their mindset is. And it helps you understand, are they in this for life? Is it a passion? Are they trying to sell? Do they want to really grow their business? So it's understanding your owner too. And a lot of times you'll figure out the employee you have based on the questions they ask.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And, interviews are super important. When I sit down, I'll sit down with my employees and I'll bring them in and I'll just pick their brain and see where they're at. And yeah, you know what you have, man. And you take care of those that take care of you. It's simple, John. It's simple, man. There's an owner, there's a boss. And at the end of the day, he's going to tell you what needs to get done, man. Are you going to do it? Now, at the same time, I don't walk in here thinking that I'm the boss, man. As a matter of fact, John, I don't hire people to work for me. I mean, I do, obviously, man. I'm just trying to find the right words here, but
you hire people that you want to take your job.
I work for my employees, man. I'm here for them. They're not here for me. I'm here. I'm the hardest working person here at Bravo because I work for them, bro. I mean, that's it in a nutshell. I'm not unattainable. I mean, if somebody says, "Hey, this computer broke down," I don't say, "Well, that's not my problem." No, right. Man. I actually go in there and I say, "Okay, what's going on?" Now, I'm not an IT guy, so I'll find somebody that'll fix it. But they come to me for things like that, and I like that, man, because they need to. It's like children, man. You need to allow them to come to you for things, and you need to be able to trust them as well. Here's another thing, John. I delegate a lot, man, and sometimes, I have a video editor, and he's great, man. Dan, he's a great video editor. We just released a rundown video on the Glock. If you haven't seen it, check it out. We released it this weekend, but he does an awesome job. Now, does he do it the way I would do it? No, but about 80% of it is done the way I would like to do it. And I don't sit there and I don't micromanage him either, but I knew hiring him, I needed to know if he understood where I was coming from. So I delegate, man, and I let them be who they are, and I let them go out there and just kind of flourish, man, and do what they're good at. And sometimes I may not agree with it, but if the market likes it, if they dig it, then that's all that matters, John. That's all that matters.
It's funny. I know you probably saw it because Gary Vee just released a notepad where he said, I give more power to my employees than I should in the beginning because I like to know what I have.
Exactly.
He goes, I'll give them all the rope in the world, And I was listening to something he was talking about. He's like, I'll give them budget. I'll give them the world. But it's easier for me to evaluate them in a short period of time when I give them the world and I can see what they do with the world.
You got to let them fall, man.
Yeah. And I like that because then you kind of, okay, if they get 1 out of 3 things right, you can kind of work with them. Okay, like we can tweak this. This doesn't fit our culture here. You can adjust things. And I think I was watching it. I stumbled across something really interesting. Mr. Wonderful from Shark Tank. I was watching a thing on him and I put it in my stories actually, and a lot of people chimed in. He said, in small to medium-sized companies, which is what I specialize in running, he goes, I'd rather hire a maverick than somebody that likes to sit there and go buy the book. And he goes, because what I find is when you get into these larger companies and everybody wants to do things by the book and by a certain HR type way, which is the exact terminology he used. He said, and it's on my LinkedIn, he goes, I tend to notice they stumble more, but they're okay with stumbling because they want to go by the book and that feels like it grants them a certain amount of freedom to fail. I want guys that are mavericks because mavericks tend to be doers. They tend to get things done for better or worse. They'll see a project all the way to the end and not use the manual as an excuse to fail.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense. Yeah, and it's so true. It's going out there and just pushing the envelope and pushing the walls. One of the things that and Mr. Wonderful, I love him, man. He's great. He's just so harsh, but he's awesome. One of the things that stuck to me, I think it was, I know it was, Steve Jobs said, when you grow up, you're going to realize that most of the people in the world aren't any smarter than you, man. And it's so true, John. A lot of people are so afraid to push the envelope, to do something different because they feel that, well, this person didn't do it that way and that person didn't do it that way. And that's fine. A lot of people, there's people out there that are animals and beasts at what they do when it comes to business. But sometimes, we need to focus on what we're doing and what it is that we need to do to take it to the next level. And a lot of times it's not what Mr. Wonderful would do or what a Gary Vee would do or what a Mark Cuban would do. And so I think he kind of means that as well. It's the maverick is the one that's going to look at it and kind of try to find another way to do it and try to do it better and try to do it different. And faith part of success, and I've said it before, and you're right. You give your people, you delegate and you let them fail, man, and it's fine. I don't fire people for failing. Make it sound like I fire people all the time. I don't, but I don't let go of people because they fail. I'll let go of people because they're stagnant. I'll let go of people because they don't try.
I don't think any good manager or boss fires anyone. I think people tend to fire themselves. And if you look back, jobs we've lost through the years, even as a kid, you kind of do it to yourself, right? Like you kind of go down a path and you look back, and sometimes it's the best thing that ever happened to you. I was thrust into a lot of high profile positions at young ages, and I've stumbled and I've fallen, and I've the one thing I always said, Rene, and I'd say this to any boss if you were hiring me right now, I always said, I can control 2 things. I can control how loyal I am and what time I get out of bed. I'm going to give you those 2 things to the max. Whether or not it's going to be a fit down the line, because my style is a very aggressive go mentality. I don't allow anything in my life I have to food, clothe, or give shelter to. I go a million miles an hour and I just go. And I like to see projects all the way to the end, for better or worse. And I usually always come back to owners, especially with my type of style, which is known throughout the industry as aggressive. I don't think anyone brings me into a company and says, geez, he's not going to shock our culture. I think they know that I'm going to shock the culture when I come there. But I always say my way works the best until you show me a better way. But if you're not going to show me a better way, my way works. And I'm going to implement content creation, programs, things that we're going to be able to run on very little fuel, very little money. And we're going to be able to achieve a lot of success by generating a ton of content. Whether or not it's going to hit, I don't know. But we're going to put a lot of it out there. We're going to have a lot of it. And I'll come back to people that always have these grand ideas. You'll sit with owners and you'll sit with companies and they'll say, what about ambassador programs? Or what about this? Or what about that? And I say, all those are great ideas. What budget do we have? What resources do we have? Oh, we don't have it in the budget this year. Well, my idea is still the best until you show me a better one. You know what I mean? So I like to implement and sit down and put ideas in place that work right now, because I'm a point of attack guy. When I come in and you say, hey, John, our biggest struggle is we're not generating enough content. The first thing I'm going to ask, and I've said this to companies, is what's your content creation program? And then they look at me and they say, well, what do you mean? Well, how do you get your content now? Well, once in a while we pack up the truck and we go out in the desert. Well, that doesn't make any sense. Let's put a program in place that's consistent. Even when we don't need it, we're creating it. So you have what's called a catalog to come back to. And this is very mind-blowing to owners in the business because we're so behind. And a lot of them don't understand that. So there's so many great companies out there, Rene, and we both know that. There's so many beautiful brands to work with. But a lot of them, I feel, coming out of the era that you got in the business, we saw cycles. And I've talked about this a lot on LinkedIn and in different platforms. We saw cycles of where and you got into it at the right time, because there was a lot of people that were used to buying ads. All they did was buy ads. They didn't want to generate their own media. They would just buy ads. So they were buying all these ads on all these different platforms. Well, those platforms have since dried up. So now everybody's looking around, and what did they fall into and fall in love with? Facebook and Instagram. Well, Facebook and Instagram has since pulled back, and I've never been a huge fan of ambassador programs in the traditional sense. That doesn't mean I'm against ambassadors. I think you can work with people in short periods of time in bursts and do very well with them and have a lot of success. And it doesn't have to be a get-rich thing. Because if you're coming into the firearms business to be an ambassador and get rich, it's not going to happen. I'm going to tell you right now, I'll burst everybody's bubble. It's not going to happen. Renee's not going to write you a $5,000 a month check to push his holsters unless you can guarantee him $7,500 in return. You know what I mean? Exactly. It's not going to happen. So I try to take that off the table and I say, but you can have a very good business if you come into it with realistic goals and you set realistic goals. What do you look for in ambassadors? Because you've always been someone that's worked with someone through the years, whether it be Instructor Zero or different guys through the years. What is some of the key ingredients you look for beyond being a good person?
Well, it's funny, John, because we don't even have any ambassadors anymore that are directly tied to Bravo Concealment. We have a couple of people, but they write articles for us, and we do that basically for just SEO for our website. But as far as influencers and stuff like that, we really don't work with anyone, man. And we've learned throughout the years that you're right, that I think there was a time where these people thought that they were worth a lot of money. And look, I don't blame them, because I think a lot of people were talking and a lot of people were doing things, and I think a lot of companies were paying the big bucks. And so, you can even look at us, because there was a time where we were paying certain people. But at the end of the day, I think, what we look for in ambassadors, not really ambassadors. We have people that run our gear, but it's basically just, hey, man, we really like your page. You have great content. We want to send you some products. What do you think? And it's basically products for them, just putting our products on their page, man. That's it. We really don't write checks anymore, because I think those days are long and gone, John. I think, especially now on Instagram, where you can't see, you can't see the likes anymore and stuff like that. It's just one of those things where, I just feel that it's kind of drying up, and it's turned into another form of reality, which is, you're right. I mean, you're not going to make a whole lot of money, and you can get people to send you stuff, but at the end of the day, you're going to have to be more than that, because what differentiates you from being an influencer than the other guy, other than, well, I go out to the range and shoot? Yeah, well, so do 50,000 other people, man. I mean, It's tough, man. It's a tough game now, and it just we ran analytics, we ran our numbers, and it just wasn't working for us, man.
You know,
And we
and
just
I
had,
think, yeah, I think your approach to it has always been a healthy one where you're not opposed to helping someone out and working with someone on a small or limited basis. Like, hey, you want to do a couple videos? I get that videos aren't free. You want to do, we can work something out. There's always a middle ground. But to get into these long-term relationships, it's like adoption. You know what I mean? You inherit the person and all their
yeah.
bullshit. So it becomes a little bit of a headache. But it speaks to the transition that the firearms business is going through. And you've been smart and you've been ahead of the curve in doing things like podcasting and bringing in audio and video, and you've understood the value of it. Why is it you're so ahead of the curve and so many companies are not, do you feel?
Because we're focused on one thing, and that is to sell holsters, and that's it. Now, um, you can look at some of the videos that I'll do a Facebook Live and I'll record it, and people will ask me questions, and that's what you'll see on our IGTV. We release 3 videos every week on our IGTV and obviously on our Instagram. And I could be talking about my faith. I could be talking about, the gun holster that I run. I could be talking about anything, but
Real
it's
topics.
yeah, real topics, and those are true to me. Now, how does my faith sell holsters? I get it, I understand that, but that's who I am, and that's what I do, and I'm just putting out content, the real me. I'm not trying to fake it or anything like that. And so I'll put content out there, and what we're doing is we're slowly but surely branding. We're getting people to understand that, hey, I can actually talk to the owner of Bravo Concealment. I tell people, DM me, man. I get
Hmm.
hundreds of DMs a day, and you know what, John? I go through every single one of them, man.
It's
That's
crazy.
what it takes, man. That's what it takes, John. Now we have a distinct advantage over somebody else, and that is that people get to talk to the owner. People get to ask me what they want to ask me. You want to ask me about my children, you want to ask me about my faith, you want to ask me about my dog, you want to ask me about my car. I'll sit there and I'll take the time to talk to you about it. And it's just creating that attention. And if it leads to 1 sale, great. If it leads to 0 sales, great. If it leads to 10, great. But at the end of the day, the numbers have to make sense. So the reason we don't go out there and get ambassadors is because the numbers just weren't making sense. So we just created our our own content, and we just put it out there, man.
And I think it's incredibly smart. And I think it's the right thing to do. Now, can you do it wholesale all the time? No. Yeah, you still have to weave in certain things, and we all know that. And that's just part of the game. But at the same time, you've always been ahead, and I've always admired that from a distance. One of the biggest failures I feel of a lot of brands, you look out there, there's so many brands that could take even the things that we're doing on a micro level, myself, and they could do so much more with it. And I feel like one of the frustrating things for me in the business is I look at brands, whether it's like SIG, Springfield, Smith& and Wesson, and I'm not knocking any of them, but they've become such big bureaucratic entities that they're actually playing a little bit from behind. They could be in these spaces like audio and video. And to your point, what does faith have to do with selling holsters? What I try to explain to people, one of the things I've been a big preacher of, you go and look at billion-dollar brands with a B, and you look at Monster, and you look at Red Bull, and you go look at their channels and their streaming and some of their podcasts. They don't talk about the product at all. They're not sitting there like, when I drink a Monster, I feel a high that you can't achieve from anything else. You go watch Red Bull TV. It's people jumping off mountains. It's this, that. You don't see one can, Rene, not one can. And what I try to tell people all the time as a byproduct of my podcast and about a lot of the things that I've done in marketing is I try to say, stop being obsessed with the gun. You're
Mm,
obsessed with the gun.
mm-hmm.
And I'm going to tell you, it's going to deflate your ego, but I'm going to tell you, AR technology has not improved that significantly in the last 25. It just hasn't. That's just
Mm-hmm.
reality. Just
Mm-hmm.
as I'm sure Kydex and holster technology, that's just the real reality of it. Can you do some cool things to it? Are you being innovative? Sure. Do you have to do those product videos? Absolutely. But people want to hear the real story.
I
They want
agree,
to get to
John.
know the person.
I,
And I
I
try, and part of this journey with this podcast is I tried to take a lot of the pro 2A people, pro defense people in our communities, and I look at communities like MMA, shooting, action sports, and I try to say these people need a voice. And one of the biggest things killing us politically and publicly is we don't put a microphone in front of these people and allow them
yeah.
to talk.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think there's a lot of companies out there with superior products. They just can't sell them because they just don't know how to sell them in this day and age. And you're right. You have to create content. You need to go out there and put your stuff out. And just because it works for me doesn't mean that it'll work for somebody else. But yeah, man, I mean, it just comes down to putting yourself out there, creating content. I think a lot of people, we're in a very vain industry. We're in an industry where there is a lot of hate. And I think people, and I don't think it's the business to business. I think it's the culture inside the business. I don't think SIG is bad mouthing Glock or whatever the case is.
Oh no, absolutely.
Maybe in the holster business, because anybody can take a sheet of Kydex and heat it up and make a holster per se. I'm not saying anybody, but most people can. So in there you get this big you get this big bubble that, they're just talking bad about people and all that. And look, it is what it is. But I think people don't want to put themselves out there because they're afraid of getting, the flack. They're afraid to being called a name or to being called an idiot or something like that. They're afraid to make a mistake. I'm not, man. John, I don't look at it that way. For me, man, you like my stuff, great. You don't, you can say you don't like it. I mean, it just rolls off my back, man, like water off a duck's back. It really does. And I learned if you do that early on, then you can pretty much do anything on social media, man, to where it's not going to bother you, to where it's going to stifle you, or where it's going to galvanize you. And, well, no, I can't do this or I can't do that. Most people on social media, or I don't want to say most, but a lot of people on social media, I'm talking about the followers, they're just haters, man. And they just, to give them any type of rent space in my brain is like, no way, man. It doesn't make any sense for me. It really doesn't. And so we just move forward, man. And I put out the content that I feel is great for me and for our listeners and for our customers. And it works. I mean, it works to a certain point, John.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can spend all day on the hater topic, but I think the reality is most people, if you have something that if you give the perception that you have something they want, and money's the simplest thing, right? So everybody wants money, right? At least in their mind, or success. If you give off that vibe, you're going to draw in haters. It's never so telling than if you go, and I remember this like yesterday, when Ronda Rousey got knocked out and lost her title. She had so many people commenting on her page, "You got knocked out, fuck you, bitch," all this stuff. Mm-hmm. And in my head, I'm saying, this woman totally changed the face of fighting for women in this country and just across the world. She became a megastar, did things that most people will never do in a lifetime. She doesn't deserve any of that. And that's why I think you see people who are very well managed, Rene. You see people like The Rock, and I always take the Rock approach to social media. You just got to smile and you just got to be like, whatever, dude, because you're never going to win, right? So if you have a successful podcast, you have a successful business, you're doing well, you have a clean shirt on, there's always going to be some stupid idiot out there that's going to be like, hey, screw you. For years, I graduated high school, Rene. I'll tell you I graduated high school, I was 225 pounds. I played football. I was always a big guy. Amongst my circle of friends, they always talk about this. I work the least hard in the gym. I train so, I'm like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just like, I go to the gym, I go through the motions. But I still have people to this day that say, "Oh, it's just steroids, or it's just this, or it's just," and I'm like, my friends laugh, Rene. They laugh because we've seen this all transcend. We live in an era today where, what if I came back and said to them, "Yeah, so what? I went to the doctor. I'm on TRT." Ooh, like, oh, well, fuck me. You know what I mean? It's like you can't win, right? Like,
yeah, exactly.
If you come out and you say, or people say, the biggest term people like to throw out there is, "Ooh, he's gay." And I remember saying to someone, "Is that supposed to be an insult? Am I supposed to be insulted?" Like, it just shows the state of, and if I was, you know what I mean? Am I supposed, but it's just people don't understand that, you wouldn't have made it this far if you didn't have thick skin. Like, nobody cares. And it's one of those things, you got to let it go. Like, your success is going to be defined by what you do. You take the pen, you write your story, and you do what's going to make you happy. And I'm sure in the beginning, people told you were crazy. Oh, you're going from working a government job to doing this. Oh, you're out of your mind. And you dealt with that. And at the end of the day, everybody's going to always have something to say. And social media, one of the things I hate about social media, and I will say this, I wish in social media everybody was forced to use their real name. That's my biggest thing. If you have a business, that's one thing. But I wish everybody was forced to use their real name, because if they were forced to use their real name, I feel like it would force them to think twice about a lot of what they write.
No, they'd never say it in front of your face, man. I've been to SHOT Show and I've never had a bad comment, but I'll see it on social media. I'll see it on my Facebook page every once in a while. You're an idiot or whatever, this and that. But look, they're always going to be there, man. And they're like roaches. They're never going to go away. And you just have to deal with it. And you just can't let them bother you. You just got to move forward, because there's something more important. That is your business. That is your goal. Whatever it is that you're trying to do, that should be way more important than somebody just bad mouthing you, and now you just crawling under a rock or something because it hurt your feelings. Yeah, you got to be thick skinned. And the way you're going to get thick skin is if you just go out there and do it. Look, in the beginning, I remember I'd get comments and I'm like, what's up with this guy, man? Why is he saying that? Or I don't even know this guy and he doesn't even know me. And I'd spend, time thinking about why this guy doesn't like me. And, but slowly but surely, the business was always calling me, and it was always taking my energy. So I just started focusing my energy on that. And so what's your goal? What's your end goal? Focus on that. And just put everything else aside, man, even the haters. And at the end of the day, you're going to succeed, man. You're going to succeed. I think people shy away from social media and doing stories. And this, John, one of the best things that you can do on Instagram is share something about yourself, man. I mean, we put pictures, and this is just coming to fruition for us. Like, we put pictures of our holsters on Instagram and on Facebook. And now I'm starting to push back away from that and just starting to do the stories that I do. Some of them I'm just starting to share them on my Instagram and on my Facebook feed, because that gets more attention. I think that gets more, it just gets more attention. And I think it does better than just a picture of your product, man.
Right. No, I agree. Absolutely. And I think you're a forward thinker, so you're progressive, kind of like me when it comes to media. I look at your page and I look at the stuff that you put out there, and you've become, for better or worse. And I know we all, myself included, struggle with the love-hate of being out there, right? And you can't always be out there forever. You're always looking for the next person that, can be out there. And that's why I've kind of evolved and gravitated towards podcasting, because I've always had a love for people and the dialogue, and I'm a blabbermouth, so I like to have that back and forth. And I've just always felt that when you're progressive and you're first in, it doesn't pay to be the second person, and pays to be the first. So you're going to stumble, you're going to fuck up, but if you're first in, people are going to be like, I remember when Rene was doing that.
Yeah, there you go. No, it's true, man. It's true. So you're basically just talking about being pioneers, right?
Being pioneers.
Yeah.
And I think it's sad. What's really sad about it, Rene, is none of the stuff that we're doing is new and exciting. It's been being done in other businesses for a long time. It's just, you brought up a point earlier in the conversation. The firearms business and defense business is very unique, because a lot of the ownership come from a manufacturing background. So it's a very rigid 9-to-5 punch a clock mentality. As they start to break away from that mentality, and as they evolve as brands, this business, as old as it is still very new, because we're coming up in an era when so many people have gotten into it, because we've seen this huge bubble, this huge burst. Sure. Because it's not as expensive to get into the holster business as it once was. It's not as expensive to get into the soft goods business as it once was. Sure. Everybody and their mother's popping up with these businesses.
Yes.
But the reality is, in my opinion, and I want to get your thoughts, is I think a lot of brands play it too safe. And when they play it too safe, that's when they fail or fall off the table. They think they're going to come out with a cool camo AR-15 and they're going to make it, and that's going to make them. Yeah. It's not enough today.
It's not enough. And that's so true. Look, manufacturing numbers, I've got my guy, man, Manny. He just loves numbers. And so maximum output, making sure that you can make the gun holster as fast as you can, with, great, quality and all. That's super important. Those things need to be there if you're going to be a manufacturer. You just have to go by that stuff. But it's not just that. It's so much more. And you're right. I see that in a lot of companies. And look, I'm just a measly owner of a company that makes gun holsters, and I'm not trying to down talk the guys at SIG or anything like that. I mean, those guys know their numbers, they know what they're doing, but at the same time, you have to know what's going on social media. Social media is just such a strong force, and you're right, man. You need to go out there and you need to push the envelope. You need to do different things, and if they don't work, they don't work, and if they work, great, and just keep moving forward, and just keep pushing the envelope, man. You just got to keep pushing the envelope and keep moving forward. It's just, there really is, you're right. There's no surprises out there, John. I mean, Sam Walton was doing this in the 70s, man. I mean, there's no surprises, bro. There really isn't. It's just going out there and just making a great product and just putting it out there so that people can see it, man. Just putting out content so that people can so they can lead them to your product and eventually just buy. It really just comes down to that.
You're absolutely right. And then it gets into brand building, which is a whole nother animal, but and something you touched on earlier. But the business, we wouldn't be here if we didn't love it. So the caveat to all this is you love the business and you love the people within the business. And by and large, I love 90%, 95% of the people I come across in this business and in this world. And I think you do too. I think for the most part, the thing you have to come to peace with is there's always going to be 5% that don't like you. There's always going to be a percentage that just have something to say. So you have to table that and shelf it and set it aside.
I can't remember who said this. I don't know if it was Gary Vee or maybe it was Ty Lopez, but they said you got to have at least 20%. 20% of the people, you got to have haters, man. If 20% of your people are content, then you're good. If it's over 20%, then you may have to back off. But you have to have those people that are going to doubt you, the naysayers. You have to have them because you're right. Then that is proof that what you're doing is you're doing something that other people aren't doing. And that's basically what you want to do because, again, there's gun holsters out there that may be better than Bravo, but people will never know about them because they just never took that chance. They never went out there. And look, if you're not good at talking into your phone, then find somebody to do it for you, man. But get content out there and put it out there, man. It really just comes down to that. And again, manufacturing is super important. Numbers are super important, but you got to show face, man. You gotta create an awareness. You have to.
Yeah, and I absolutely think that there are holsters that are better. Surprise. But
of course.
The reality is just you have to build your community. And in building your community and building those people that are supportive of the things that you're doing in the movement, they're going to stay with you longer if it begins to become a personal mission. Some of the best brands that we've ever seen out there, whether it's Coca-Cola, Pepsi, or Monster or Red Bull or anybody, I hate to stay in the beverage world, but that's what I kind of love. Nintendo's another great brand.
Sure. Disney.
You look at it, the brand loyalty that they develop and the type of culture that they develop within that brand loyalty, it's critical to them over the long term because there are people out there that they'll buy. Video games are a great one to look at. They'll only buy Sega. I mean, or they would only buy Nintendo, or they would only buy Sony now, so
yes.
They would only buy a PlayStation or an Xbox. So you see that degree of brand loyalty. Where does that come from? How is that born? It's because they're building communities. And that's what you try to do over time is begin to foster the building of a community. I had a really smart guy, very large following, say to me once, he goes, and this speaks to a lot of the influencers we see. They said it about a particular female page. They said, is she really building a community or does she just have followers? And I sat back and I thought about it. And it was an interesting thing to say. And he wasn't knocking the person. It wasn't about knocking the individual. He just asked a question. Are they building a community or is it just followers? Yeah. And do they have a following? And I don't care if you sell one product or 50 as an influencer, or as somebody in the business, or someone that supports a brand, or a person out in front like yourself. You have to ask yourself that question. Am I just out here, running my mouth? Is it purpose driven? Am I learning? Am I beginning to build people into my ideology to understand where I am today, where I want to go with this, and the type of person that I am? Yes, I'm going to make mistakes. Yes, I'm going to get things wrong. Yes, there are people that make better holsters, but am I getting better as a brand?
Exactly. Yeah, it just comes down to that, man. It really does. I mean, it's crazy, man. And we were talking about earlier. I just want to say real quick that e-commerce has taken off like crazy, like wildfire in the past 10 years. And I think you're right. We came in with Bravo Concealment at the right time. But you got to get smart and you got to learn what's going on and you've got to adapt and you've got to do things that you don't want to do. I'm an introvert, John. I don't like talking to people, man. I mean, other than if I'm at Walmart and I see somebody that I went to high school with, I'll take the other aisle. I'm just like that. And I'm not being mean. I'm not being a jerk. That's just who I am. But I know what it takes to build Bravo and take it to the next level. And I have to do that. Look, I love this interview. I can do this. This is great. I can do this all day because I'm talking about what I'm passionate about. But if I have to sit there and talk to someone about the weather, it's like, dude, I'm sorry, I don't care, man. And so I'm an introvert in that sense, in the sense that sometimes I just don't want to bump into that guy that I haven't seen for 20 years. Now, if he's a relative or a close friend, that of course, man, I'm going to do that. But, maybe an acquaintance, it's like, I'm not big on SHOT Show. I'm not big on stuff like that, other than going there for the purpose of building, relationships and talking to people so that I can get Bravo to the next level. I'll do that all day. I'll dance on a table, man, if it sells holsters, but I have to do the things that I'm not comfortable doing. And I think a lot of people aren't ready for that. They don't want to do that. They feel that, I've said it before, my boss is the market. If the market says jump, I say how high. That's it. Bottom line, man. A lot of people ask me, why don't you make a gun holster for this type of gun? Because it doesn't sell. Yeah, but me and my buddies have one. Yeah, but you're a small sliver of the market. We need to make stuff that sells because that is not going to take us to the next level. I'm sorry, And so business is tough, man. It makes you do things that you never thought you'd do. And they're not bad things. They're not, obviously, they're just things that maybe you were delusional at once and you thought, well, I'm going to do this and it's going to take me there. No, man, the market will set you in your place, man. And you have to listen to it. If not, it'll chew you up and spit you out. And by the time you know it, you're done. And I think going back to what we're talking about, how other companies came in at the time we did, they're not there because I truly believe that they didn't listen to the people. They didn't listen to the market. They wanted to do a holster. Well, I have an FNX 45 with an X300 Vampire on or whatever, and I'm running this, and I'm going to make a holster for that. But yet nobody wants a holster for that. They want a Glock 19 holster. Well, I don't like Glock. I think Glock stinks. Well, dude, then you're not getting anywhere, man. You got to set your emotions. You got to set your what you believe in aside and listen to the people. And so being a leader, you have to learn how to take you have to learn how to take orders, man. If you want to be a leader, you have to. And I take orders from the market every single day, man.
I ask every owner this in interviews, and I have to ask you, it doesn't have to be in the holster space. What companies do you look at out there, whether in the defense industry or not, that you kind of admire from afar and you're like, geez, I really like how they do it?
I study the greats, man. I go out there and I study Buffett. I study Apple. I study Walmart. I study Amazon. I can walk over there and I've got their yearly reports, their annual reports that I just go over and I check to see how much did they spend in advertising? How much did they spend in labor costs? How much did they pay in taxes? That's the stuff I love, man. I really love the business side of things. That's why you don't see me go. A lot of people tell me, hey man, when are you going to go out to the range and shoot and show us your skills? I'm sorry, man. That's not who I am.
I'm not that good.
I'm not. Yeah, I'm not. Now, do I conceal carry every single day? Do I go to the range? Yeah, but I'm not going to impress you with my skills, bro. Yeah. I'm good enough to know that I can defend myself. Now, can we all get better? Yes, man. Should we all, be able to draw our gun and understand? Yes, man, of course. But my strengths, not my strengths, but I think what I am interested in is taking Bravo to the next level. That's why you don't see me at the range. Now, will that sell more holsters? It probably would, but that's not who I am, John. That's not
the best answer I ever saw anyone give to that. And I've stolen the answer, but and used it myself. You get to a point where you're just like, no offense, and I'm not trying to. I pay people to do that now. You know, and that's just the real reality of it. You're at a point where you have a business to run. I got, 30,
Yeah.
40 families that depend on me. I have mouths to feed. I'm not at a point in my life where I need to prove to the social media gods that I can get out there and shoot a gun. It's just not where I'm at. Do I train? Yeah. Can I train more? Yes.
Yeah, dude, and let me say this, John. I did it in the very beginning. I was out at the range and I was doing videos. You know the people that were following me when I was doing that stuff, and I did it for about 3 or 4 months, and I don't even think they're out there anymore. But I had about 5 or 6 videos of me out at the range. It was kids that wanted to see a gun go bang and hit a target, and so those people don't buy products, man. You know who buys our products? The people that are out there that want to protect their family, the people that are out there that want to conceal carry on a daily basis. It's not really the range rats, although they do buy our products. I get it, I understand that, but it's the people, it's the everyday, it's the cop, it's the police officer that wants a conceal carry holster when he's off duty. Those guys they'll watch an Instructor Zero video because it's entertaining, it's awesome, but does it convert to sales, man? Or me sitting down and telling you, I'm the owner, man. If you have any questions, reach out to me, DM me, guys. Any questions you have. Look, this is what I run. This is how I run it. I run it on a daily basis. And this is why I conceal carry on a daily basis. And this is why I don't care if somebody open carries or not, or why somebody chooses to conceal carry or not, or this is why I run a Glock. I'm just showing them me and who I am. And I think that speaks volumes. Now, is that the right thing to do, or is that the quickest way to success? I don't know, but I'm just giving them all I got. I'm giving them who I am, and it's worked so far, man. And I hope it continues to
comes
work.
back to what we talked about before, building a community or building followers.
Yeah, and being genuine, John, because the people nowadays, they can spot a fake facade a mile away, man. I'm sorry, they can. You got to be genuine, man. You got to be you. You can't fake it. You can't fake it till you make it. Oh, I'm this and I'm that. And you're not, man. People can smell it a mile away, especially now, John, where everybody, I mean, how many videos does an average person see a day? I mean, they can smell it a mile away. So you just got to be you, got to be real. And I think people will appreciate that, man, at the end of the day. I think they will.
I asked you who you admire from afar. I have to ask because I look at you as another media guru. And I asked Austin Legg this from Eberly Stock, and I ask a lot of guys that I feel are gurus in the business this question. What do you feel holds this industry back the most? Not politically, just from a marketing.
I don't know if it's holding it back. I don't know if the industry's being held back. I'm just trying to truly not understand your question. I'm just trying to wrap my head around your question. I think you can only do so much, man. I mean, what's Glock gonna do? A Pepsi commercial during the halftime at the Super Bowl? They can't do that. I think Daniel Defense tried to get a Super Bowl ad, a couple years ago, and I think NBC or ABC or Fox said no. I think as far as them pushing themselves and creating content, yeah, I think there's only so much you can do, man. Yeah, I think there's only so much you can do, John. The other thing is just everyone has a phone, man. And you need to take that into consideration and go out there and just put out content. I don't know. Is Glock gonna hire a guy to go out there and just put out content on a daily basis? I don't know. I have no idea. Does Glock need to do it? Maybe they don't need to do it. I think they own 65% of the market share. So maybe Glock doesn't have to do that, but I don't know. You rest on your laurels long enough, somebody else is going to come over, man. They're going to take over. So I don't know, John. I truly don't know. That's a loaded question, man.
Well, I think you're onto something. I think you make a good point. I think media and hardware is moving too fast for a lot of people to wrap their head around. And what you have is a little bit of a stagflation in the sense that executives can't really wrap their head around Instagram, right? Like the NSSF just came out and said, we're doing a Facebook course at SHOT Show. We're going to teach you how to do Facebook. Well, that's 10 years old.
Yes.
That window is, what are we doing here? We're not even as an industry onto Instagram or TikTok or other things. And I know Facebook's tied into Instagram and so on and so forth, but we're already playing from behind. And what I try to tell companies is you need to, if you're a new brand out in the space or even an old brand, what are you doing to get out in front of it? Like I'll ask you a question. YouTube's been around since what, 2006, 5, 4, somewhere around that range. But how many companies in the industry are really prevalent on YouTube? Is it maybe Vortex? I know Glock had a few series of videos on there, but what I would say is what holds the industry back is that failure to skate where the puck is going. We're always playing catch up. And I think I believe it's attributed to the fear of the 50 to 65-year-old middle managers or directors in a lot of positions that they just can't, Rene, wrap their head around.
Sure.
They just can't get their head around it.
Sure.
And what I see a lot of times, and I sit in a lot of conference rooms at SHOT Show, a lot. And when I'm sitting there, whether it's with Tony or certain people and myself having these meetings, some kid will come in the room that's like an intern or a flunky or a pipsqueak who's like a junior guy running the social media. And he'll come in and he'll give his pitch and he'll walk out. And I'll say to the CEO or the owner, I'll say, you need to listen to that guy more because you've given him a phone and you placed him in charge of what you've admitted is your largest audience, but yet you don't give him any credit or you don't give him any bandwidth and you don't support him. So I'm confused here. So I asked a marketing director this once of a very big company, very big retail entity. I was on a conference call. It was a CEO and a marketing director, and as God is my witness, and I could call people in to verify this. I asked him, I said, well, how many people in your marketing department? He said 17. And I said, well, what do they do on a day-to-day basis? I kind of got like a blank answer. And then I said, well, what's your content creation strategy? What are your programs? How do you plan on tackling YouTube? How do you plan on tackling TikTok? How do you plan on approaching these different spheres? And you just get crickets back because there's an unwillingness for them to even learn. And then the feedback that you get a lot back from them privately is like, well, Sally just got a couple years left of college and I'm just trying to get out of the business. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I'm just like, what's going on here? And that's what's causing this 5 or 8 year lag that we're behind in this business and that failure to kind of leap forward. But I think as you have, and I'll use Glock as an example, the Shane Coolies of the world get put into positions of prominence. These forward thinkers get put in positions of prominence within the industry. You're going to see quantum leaps in the way they do media and the way they approach media. Because when people talk about things like SEO, audio is an SEO contributor. How many audio devices do you think are going to be in a home in 2025?
Sure, man.
More than one? More than two?
Yeah.
Probably 3, right? You're going to have Alexa.
Yeah.
You're going to have Google Play. You're going to have all these different entities in a home. You're going to be able to unlock your doors, turn your lights on, listen to Pandora, and do whatever. Do you think you should maybe make an investment in audio? Just a hunch. Just a thought, right?
Yeah. No, yeah, it's mind-boggling. I mean, how many of these big companies have a YouTube channel where they're constantly putting on content? Yeah, you're right. And it's I think I've never seen anything like this, John. I mean, I'm 46 and I've never seen anything like this. When I was born, TV was already there. I think we went from cassette tapes, from 8 tracks to cassette tapes to CDs,
I'm with you. I'm 38. Yeah. I'm with you. I'm not far behind.
Yeah, and so, but then the internet came out and Facebook and Instagram and just Amazon, and I think people are still trying to get a hold of it and trying to wrap their heads around what's going on.
It's like this, Rene. I'm going to ask a deeper question. How many CEOs and CMOs, chief marketing officers, are hiring people into media departments with the intention or the belief that that person may have to get on air, meaning get in front of a microphone or a video camera? How many actually are hiring with that in mind? And if they're not, then they shouldn't even be in charge in the first place.
Mm,
That's my humble opinion. If you're hiring anybody today in the firearms business or in almost any business, but particularly in the firearms business, short of a graphic designer, and not thinking that that person could be in front of a camera or a microphone, you're failing.
yeah, it's just that there has to be an ROI. I mean, there just has to be a return on investment, and these guys know their numbers, and they run super lean, man. And I don't know, man. 17. I mean, look, they're hiring 17 people, man, for their social media marketing. What are they doing? I have no idea. So,
It's a big department.
yeah, that's a big department. I wish I had 17. It's just me
Yeah.
and Dan. So, and with us, it's only two. Well, Z helps out as well, so it's three of us. But
Yeah, most of the time you have about three. You have a person good with graphic design and maybe limited web work, and then
Sure.
you'll have a video photo editor type, somebody, or they're wrapped into the two. And then you
Sure.
have your out in front guy, or what I like to call your creator.
yeah,
Right. And your creator is you in that
Mhm.
sense. And then you have your team. And
Yeah.
then I could see like somebody like a Z being able to jump in if need be, like, you know.
Yeah, Z will go up there and upload a lot of stuff and make sure that we're using the proper keywords and all that. But yeah, man, I mean, 17, that's a lot. I could do so much with 17, man.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
and don't get me wrong, when you're segmenting a department, I can see how that would fit. You'd have a few guys that are working on your newsletters and things like that, especially for a
Sure.
larger retail entity. Maybe you bring the writers in-house, because in a perfect world, you'd have a lot of people in-house. But the reality is, it's just more the mindset and the thought process behind as you bring people on, particularly into media departments, because I think it's the right thing to do. I think there's been way too many outside consultants running the business, and I feel like everybody's sitting around waiting for the next Black Rifle Coffee to come in and like save them. And I'm
mhm.
saying, why aren't you getting into streaming? Why aren't you getting into YouTube? Why aren't you in these spaces? You don't need, I agree with you on the ROI point. You don't need 1 million people. But if you could build out a media department for $250,000, say, in salaries and everything else in between, and that department could help your web or your website net out, because I think this is your ROI. Tie all web sales into media. That's the measurable. So if you have them constantly sitting and analyzing web sales and looking at those, and you have 250,000 in salaries, and they're netting you out 1 million a month, then they're worth every penny. They're worth every penny.
Sure.
Because if you're a smart owner and you could bring in, say, a Gary V, but it cost you 400,000 a year, you'd hire him in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And you're not even going to ask the question. Now, I'm saying, what I'm getting at is, I just think one of the biggest failures in our business is that failure to look beyond. And in our business, you'll find a lot of talented people that want to create more and do more and develop media in weaker areas, but we're already missing the boat. We're missing the boat in YouTube. We're going to miss the boat in TikTok. So it's going to be, what's the next thing? And I think streaming is the next thing.
Yeah, what's the next thing? You got to be willing to move forward and just do whatever's. I mean, I started doing TikTok, man.
Yeah, but there's
A couple
not.
of weeks ago, I started doing TikTok. I bought a video game for my kid, Star Wars, the Jedi Force. It came with a coin. I just spin it on the table and I recorded it, and it got like 50,000 views.
Yeah.
You know,
And
it's, and it has nothing to do with Bravo holsters, because I can't even show the holsters, because I did one and it just they took it off. But yeah, man, I mean, find a way how you can utilize TikTok. Now, we get it, bunch of kids on there, but that's what they said about Instagram, and look at where it's at now. I mean,
all right, guys, here's my
it's
32-ounce hydro flask.
So I lost you for a second.
No, it's fine.
But what I was saying is, the point that you're making is absolutely accurate. But one of my big struggles always is, if you know these things, and I don't think anybody's smarter than me. That's the thing I struggle with. And if you know these things, right? If you know that 5 years from now, if you look around your house, you're probably going to have 3 audio devices. Don't you think it would be wise to get into that audio space?
Yeah. If you watch our videos, we have what we call it's called an audio. What do we call it? Anyways, when you watch our videos, the first 2 seconds you'll hear a swoosh, and then you will hear a click, and it's actually a gun going into one of our holsters. It's an audio tag that we call.
Mm-hmm.
And we did it because one day, it's kind of like you hear Nintendo jingle, and it's Nintendo. People have certain audio tags, and so that's why we're doing audio tags in our videos, man, because we truly believe that one day you're gonna hear that noise and you're gonna know it's Bravo. And so yeah, man, audio is super important.
Here's the $1 million question that I would ask every company at SHOT Show.
Yes.
How many companies have actually gone into Amazon or Alexa keywords and actually put their company in as a keyword yet? It's probably zero, Rene. And that's again, I don't want this to turn into a marketing seminar, but I've always looked at you as a guru, and what I'm getting at is one of the failures I feel that the business has suffered is that failure to skate where the puck is going. And I feel like a lot of it, and it holds us back as a business because politically we get our hands cut off. Socially, we get our hands cut off, right? 50% of the universe hates us. So what I look at is, why aren't we innovating and being forward thinking? 10 years ago, if I had walked around SHOT Show with you and we had said the future was going to be on this thing called Instagram, and we went around with Instagram, people would have thought we were crazy.
Yeah.
They would have run us off the floor. But today it's widely accepted. And companies come along like Black Rifle and certain brands, and I love them all. They've done phenomenal jobs. And we hand them the keys to the kingdom like, oh, here, help us, save us. Save us. And to me, the answer is so clear. Get somebody in with a mindset. Now, you're lucky because you're a dual threat. You're an owner who can do media. But get people in that have a forward-thinking mindset and get into a platform that you feel you can really excel with your product, with your line, stay true to your line, stay true to your product, at the same time build it out, but get ahead of it. And it might take you 2 years to do it, but if I was to tell you in 2 years, TikTok's going to be the biggest thing, how much of an investment would you put into it? So the way I try to explain to owners and to visionaries is, think of marketing and content creation like an investment pie. You're going to put, as you get older, 80% of your investments in something that has a guaranteed yield, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why wouldn't you put 10% in something that's speculative? Why wouldn't you put 5% in something that is a real long shot? But
yeah, I mean, look, I get it. It makes total sense. Even on paper, it makes sense. It's just people aren't willing to go out there and do it. It's work, man. It's hard work. It is work, and so it takes you away from running a business, or it costs money because a video editor is going to cost you money, and if you're running lean already, can you afford that guy?
Yeah.
I mean, look, I don't know why Coke doesn't have a YouTube channel. I don't know if they do, or I don't know. They do?
Mm-hmm.
Like an actual Coca-Cola YouTube channel?
Yep.
Or okay, well, but some of these companies, John, I think here's where. And I hear, I don't want to call it a rant, but what you were saying, I hear you. It's just some of these guys may be smarter. I just give everybody the benefit of the doubt.
I know you do. That's why I asked.
And I'm like, okay, so then what am I missing? Why aren't they doing it? And they're successful, but they're not doing that. What am I missing? And I try to figure it out. What is it? What is it? Why isn't Coca-Cola walking around Central Park with a camera and asking people to try their beverage? And I don't know.
This is where the rubber meets the road. Coca-Cola is such a big brand that it actually works the opposite. Its YouTube department is probably a department all its own, right?
Sure.
So they probably have an 8 or 10 or 15 person team that just generates YouTube specific content. So that's where it gets very different from our industry, where we have one person that tries to wear 50 hats, right?
Exactly.
So
of
you
course.
end up becoming one person. The solution I find for a lot of companies, and I try to tell them this, and part of the reason why I like things that generate a very high arbitrage, and I like things like video, audio, and all these different captures, because just even from this, you can pull the audio, you can pull the video, you can pull photos from it, you can pull so many different things.
Sure,
and
man.
then you have to layer in there things like going to the range, you have to layer in all these different things, product videos, and at the end of the day, you become one person. That's where subcontracting to bring, so instead of having a $250,000 department, you kind of say, well, I can pay one guy a lot of money as long as he can maestro everything else and kind of bring it all together. And I can, have an outside video editor, I can have an outside graphic designer, and maybe I have one person part-time that helps inside. And I've seen companies do that successfully. But because I don't think I'm that smart, I look at people and talking about where the puck's going, and I read and I study a lot of articles that come out, and I see the investments that people like Oprah are making into YouTube. I see the investments that people like Monster and Red Bull, as I brought up before, are putting into these different platforms. And then I look at where podcasting is going, which is something that's really interested me because of the growth of audio. So I'm looking at like Spotify making a huge push to gobble up a lot of podcasts and make them what they call exclusive content. And then I'm looking at what iTunes is starting to do by segmenting its podcasts as something totally different. So I'm looking at these different spaces and I'm saying, 5-10 years from now, the way we consume media and the way media is consumed, people now want to see short, quick clips, things like you're editing and doing. People want to get the Reader's Digest. They want to get the gist of it. They want to see long form conversations when they do want to tune in, and people tend to be binge watchers. So you have to create programs of content that's repeatable. So a lot of times I'll ask guys that have that old mentality, I'll say, is that a repeatable system? And they'll say, well, what do you mean? And I'll say, well, can you repeat that week after week? Can you do that week in and week out? Because a lot of people say to me, oh, I want to start a podcast, or I want to do a video series. Oh, great, just go do it. And you hear crickets and they can't do it. So you have to put program, especially in a small to medium-sized business. The advice I would have for anyone is you have to create repeatable content creation systems. You have to create programs that are repeatable. So, not to turn it into a masterclass on marketing, but I feel like that's one of the things that holds us back, because I look at entities like Turning Point USA, and I look at what they've done for the Republican Party and how they've developed the Republican Party, and what Charlie Kirk's done through short, quick consumable media, and also what Gary Vee's managed to do with creating short consumable media, but also harnessing not just audio, but video, but also bringing back the resurgence of blogging and short, quick takes on information being consumed, digestible in a way that we're able to process it and say, geez, I can implement these ideas, not just in my business, but geez, I really like that holster, or I like this, how that secures in there, or I really like this. But I do think, it's twofold. I think marketing and media departments have to evolve, but I also think by and large, the industry's taking great leaps forward, but I also think that there's a little bit of a risk in we put all our eggs in one basket and making it all about the gun. Because you said something in the beginning. You like to talk about going to church. You like to talk about your family. You like to talk about your faith. You like to talk about all those things. And I think that those are important. I think they resonate with people. And I think they make you human. And I think one of the biggest failures in the gun business the last 10 years is when we lost Ackerman McQueen through the NRA. The NRA went into disarray. And your opinion of them is irrelevant. Everybody's opinion listening. It's when we lost that, go ask Ackerman, go ask the NRA how they feel about outsourcing media now. And I guarantee you they will tell you that was a huge mistake, because they don't own any of that content. And NRA TV's gone. All those assets are gone. So I think having it in-house and making an investment in it is what's going to drive sales in the future. Whether or not you get it right's another story. Whether or not you're able to hit, be ahead of it's another story. But I think that you are. I think a lot of the things that you've done at Bravo have done that. I think even going back to getting behind guys like Instructor Zero and certain folks out there, and capturing some of those moments. I think you were way ahead of it. You had a shoot fast guy before anyone else had a shoot fast guy. You were way out in front of a lot of things. You did a podcast when no one was really doing a podcast. No one in the industry was. I think you've managed to get to those quick clip videos faster and better than anybody else, and that's what makes you a pioneer. And is it hitting right now? Probably yes and no, but it's just you're skating to where the puck's going, so who gives a fuck? You're ahead of it.
It's crazy, John. I hear you say all these things, and I'm just so focused on Bravo, and I don't watch football. I don't even watch the games, this weekend, or I don't even know who won. As a matter of fact, I'm lying. I actually watched the first football, the first quarterback to receiver. I think it was I think it was yesterday. I think I turned on the Packers game for like 10, 15 minutes, and and uh, I saw a couple of plays, but I am just so focused on Bravo, man, and I don't know if I'm the first. I don't know if I'm the last in line doing this. I don't know if what I'm doing other people are doing or not. Other than the few people that I follow on Instagram, I'm just doing it, man. I'm just doing it. You asked me like, what companies do you admire in your industry? I'm sorry, man. I'm sure there's a lot of good companies out there that are doing great stuff. I know, what is it, Black Rifle Coffee?
Mm-hmm.
They're obviously they're out there, and they were doing their skits, and I don't know if they're still doing that or not, but obviously that's good marketing and all that, but I come in here and I study other things outside of the bubble that I'm in. Believe it or not, man, I do, because you ask me, where do you think this industry is going, if it's if it can grow, and I'm like, I don't know, man. I know Bravo can grow, and I'm focused on that, and that's our future. We're trying to get into retail. That's what we want to do. The future for us is retail, because those are high volume numbers, and obviously our maximum output has grown significantly with the introduction of the polymer gun holsters that we have. So we're trying to go retail. I'm just so laser focused. Now that doesn't mean that maybe I'm not being healthy. Maybe I need to go out there and make sure what our competitors are doing and all that. But sometimes I don't do that. I'm just so focused on what it is that I can learn to make Bravo better. And it's not, and I guess I go fishing in other pools. I don't just fish in our little circle. I really don't. I just go out there and do other stuff, because I think you're right. I think that our industry is kind of lagging behind. So I try to go out there and see what Jeff Bezos is doing, man.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I think that's what makes you successful at the end of the day. That's the message right there, is you're willing to look out of the bubble and out of the box, and have a little bit of out of the box thinking. And I think that's
let me just say that I think networking is great. I think going to SHOT Show is good to get in front of people and learn about certain things. I know that we've made mistakes in business because of the nature of the industry that we're in. And I think if I would talk to you a little bit more often and kind of call you up and ask you about certain opinions, maybe we wouldn't have done those mistakes. But I just kind of look through our industry, and I kind of look outward and into other stuff out there as well. I do.
Yeah. I think by and large, a lot of industry stuff, I use air quotes, I think what we're getting at is it's a little overrated. Like when I tell companies what's an ideal show to be at, like, do I think by and large holster companies should be at SHOT Show? No. My short answer would be no. It's not.
Let me just say this real quick, John.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I think if you can fulfill a purchase order, I think you should be there, man, every single year, man, and you should set up the best, the best booth out there and create attention. But if you can't fulfill 100 order from a small mom and pop, you shouldn't be there at all. You should be at home working on your manufacturing process, man.
Yeah. You
should be at home working on how you can make your gun holsters faster so that you can go out there to SHOT Show and fulfill orders, fulfill a big PO from, let's say, I don't know, a Top Brass, whatever, Gander Outdoors or something. Because if Gander knocks on your door, you're not going to be able to fulfill it. You're not. And for me, it's, if you can do those things, great, go out there and do it. But if you're out there because you want to show face, and you go out there because you want an Instagram story, then you're out there for the wrong reasons, man. You really are.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I say by and large, there's probably a handful of holster companies, just like there's probably a handful of lubricant companies that should be at a show like that. And there's a gazillion of them. Those are two very flooded markets. I think the NRA show has a lot of reasons to walk around and be there because you're dealing with more consumers, and it's more of a Q&A from consumers. In fact, if you said to me, John, I'm going to the NRA show and I'm going to sit, have lunch with you, have lunch with an influencer, have lunch with some customers, that would be something that would be invaluable, and share ideas and toss things around, and you see what you come out of it with, because you're talking more to customers. And the holster game and some of these like soft goods games, it is important to develop a network and business, but SHOT Show's become so expensive and such a thing that it's very hard for a company to justify. It's what's a 10 by 10 going to run you now, soup to nuts, to get the team out there, 20, 30 grand. So to justify, that in the end, it becomes very difficult, because you got to say, hey, we got to get 60 grand in POs, to make it make sense.
Exactly. Especially if you're running out of your garage, that's fine, man. But if you shouldn't be going out there if it's gonna cost you half of what you profited that year, or just what you brought in general, just income. So yeah, man, I think people need to get real. They need to understand what it is that they're doing, and understand that you have no business being at SHOT. We got offered a booth a couple years ago, and we just said, no, why are we going to do this? We were following the crowd, man. We were following the crowd, the herd. We were following the herd, and like, oh, we need a booth at SHOT Show. Why? Well, because everyone's doing it. Well, that's not a great reason, man. And we started running numbers, and we're like, why are we spending this much money at SHOT Show when there's no ROI in it, other than maybe going out there and taking a selfie with, I don't know, some gun bunny or something? I have no idea, man. Like, it doesn't really make sense. It'd be great to go out there and have lunch with you, John. I mean, it'd be great to go out there and have lunch with people that I know in the industry, but that shouldn't cost you $30,000, man. You know what I mean?
There's more value in you saying, let me pack up 2 pieces of luggage, go to the NRA show, sell, a few thousand in product to at least cover a piece of it.
Exactly.
And then maybe out of it, get some brand awareness, give some hats away, meet some people. Because I think you can scoop up a 10 by 10 at NRA for under $1,000. I'm pretty sure, if you can get one. And then I think there's some value in that. You kind of do it on a shoestring, and you come out of it with some good brand awareness. And like you said, the ability to sit with some folks and interact and take back some knowledge from the show that you can implement.
You think SHOT Show is getting expensive just so that they can kind of weed out the small players?
That's a good question.
You think maybe they feel like, no, man, we've got a lot of people in here that shouldn't be here, and it's turning away. Maybe it's turning away, the big guys.
No, because the list gets longer and longer. I think that tactic, if they were using that tactic, it's backfired, for better or worse, because the list gets longer and longer to get in. I think SHOT Show's 2 things. I think it's a point of pride for a lot of brands, because I see some of these brands that had these enormous booths. I go back and I look, and I'll pick on Steve Troy because I know him. And Troy at one point had a mega booth at SHOT. Now he gets very tiny booths because they're just not doing the business the way that they did. And in my head, I've said to a few brands that I won't name that I've worked with, I'm like, if this is going to be, like you said, detrimental to your ROI at the end of the year, why are you doing it? And I've legitimately had companies say to me, well, if we don't, we won't be relevant. And I'm like, what does that even mean? I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. But in the fitness industry, we've seen the show culture die, other than for competitors. Like, they can't even keep Olympia afloat. That's why The Rock's bringing in a fitness show. And he's trying to fund it and get it funded differently through other means. But they were talking about, Olympia, the floor show. The only way that's going to stay alive is if they bring the actual competition to the floor of the actual booth show. You know what I mean? The expo. So they have to bring it to the floor, and that's what the Arnold does, and that's why the Arnold show survives in Ohio. And he's brought in other things like the judo tournament and jiu-jitsu tournament and powerlifting tournaments into that venue, because they can't stay alive. SHOT Show, I think, is a big point of pride in the defense industry, and you just have at the top, you have such big companies, such big entities getting these mega booths. You have the Stigs, the Glocks, the Leopolds, when that money is just really a drop in the bucket. And then I think at the bottom, you have a lot of people scrambling for relevance. I think SHOT Show can be of value, just like any show can be of value, if you can justify the marketing and you can justify the return on investment and what you get from POs. Now, are you going to always come out in the beginning and it be a huge win? No, you're not. There's no chance. I've advised companies in the past. I'm like, look, if you can cover your costs in POs and the marketing does have a value. I know a lot of owners like to say, what's the ROI? Well, yeah, if you have 100 people coming up to your booth, taking pictures, building your brand, you gain market share, because this is the turning point I've had with a few owners. I said, your Instagram is an entity the company owns. Your YouTube is an entity the company owns. If you're able to harness media out of a show, then there is an ROI there, right? You are gaining something. It's not a tangible money in your pocket, but you are gaining something out of it. Do companies do that? By and large, no. The only companies that do it successfully, you go to SIG, what do they have? Multiple booths for YouTubers, multiple booths, private areas for photography, for interviews. You know, when I want to interview a SIG shooter, they say, use our podcast room. We'll book you from this time to this time. So, you know, they get it. They get it right away. So if I was a company, even if I had a 10 by 10, I'd probably have a situation set up where people could take pictures. Really harnessing that media out of it is the key. You know, I know every year when you go into it in a small booth, you're like, this is the year, we're going to get a ton of media out of it. We're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do this. I think the simplest thing to do in many ways, like the NRA show one year, I said, let's just give away T-shirts, but everybody we give a T-shirt to, let's take a picture with them at the booth and have them share it and tag it. I think little strategies like that can go a long way. You know, if you buy a $6 Gildan shirt, everybody wants something for free, and you can get a little tag out of it, a little push, and build the brand that way. And if you could do it inexpensively and then still get a couple PO orders to float it. But you have to look at value, and you have to, at the very least, as a company, and I know you would agree with me, you have to go into it with the mentality of, we have to break even in POs minimum.
Yeah, you know, initially, and then you've got your reorders, because holsters, once you go into retail, then you get reorders, so you can take all that into consideration, into account with your ROI. But yeah, man, it's a tough call, man. And look, I'll never sit here and say, well, they shouldn't have gone or they should have gone. I'm just giving you my opinion of why we haven't gone the past 3 years, but we're at the point where we need to start going retail, and we need to start going, man. And I still have my tickets for this year's SHOT Show. I still haven't canceled them. I'm not sure if I'm going to show up or not, but who knows, man? Maybe I'll be out there. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, and look, you know, I know I'll bump into you at some point. I want to ask you one more question before I let you go. You talked a little bit about the future of Bravo. Where do you see it going? Where do you see you guys seeing the most growth over the next couple of years? What's kind of the future hold, you know, long term? Do you want to get into more soft goods? I mean, give me a little taste of what you got coming down the pike.
You know, well, obviously we want to get into retail. I think our process has allowed us to take in large POs. We're still looking at price. One of the things with retail is that, and you know, I just want to say this, I don't think there's a lot of companies that actually began as an e-commerce company and went retail. There are some, but not a whole lot. And that transition is pretty tough, only because you can probably sell your products a lot more on e-commerce than you can on retail. Obviously, on retail, you're right beside the, you know, obviously us with gun holsters, we're going to be right next to the Blackhawks and the Uncle Mikes and, you know, all these other holster companies. So that's going to be a little tough, but I think we can pull it off. And yeah, we want to go retail. And eventually, once we get our foot in the door with retail, John, I mean, we've got really good engineers that we can design stuff and, you know, maybe get into, you know, some parts for guns, man. Maybe get into AR parts, maybe start doing, you know, magazines and stuff like that, things of that nature. But right now, our focus is just going full throttle retail, trying to get our price where we can be very competitive with the competitors out there. And hopefully you'll walk into an outdoors, you know, store and you'll see Bravo Concealment, man, there in the aisles. That's really where we're at. We're also focusing on social media. Obviously, you know, we're trying to get our brand out there, you know, making videos and putting content out there on a semi-daily basis. And that's pretty much it, John. I really don't have this. I wish I had something like, oh yeah, we're gonna do this. Or the other thing we really want to do is start getting into level 2, level 3 holsters. I think there's a big market for it. I think there's only I think there's only very few companies that are competitive, and for many reasons. I'm not going to get into it, but I think we can go in there and cause a little disruption if we create something really good. I'm just real happy with the company that we work with, Legacy Precisions. You know, they're just great at designing, and we also have an inside in the house CAD designers. We have 2 CAD designers that are just awesome. But you know, when it comes to designing something new and maybe level 2, level 3, there's a lot of moving parts in there, and that does take engineering and all that. So we really want to start getting into that as well. But you know, I think first things first is going retail, 100%, man.
Yeah, I think that's the logical step, but I like your idea of the level 2 and level 3. I think that's a space, and then getting into some more of the lighted options, which is something we've discussed,
Definitely.
multiple times.
Especially if we get to level 2, level 3, we're gonna have to go light bearing.
Yeah, because I can tell you right now, every agency now is starting to go the route of RMRs and lighted options, and I think if you don't get there fast, everybody's already there.
Sure, of course.
Because I've visited multiple departments. Tony and I see it on the range. Everybody's carrying an RMR. I know a bunch of Broward County Sheriff's guys. They're running RMRs right now.
Yes.
So if they're carrying that on duty and then they want to carry that off duty or undercover or whatever, you know, they're gonna start to translate. So it's a space you have to be in. And I don't know anybody that doesn't run a light anymore. And that's
No, yeah, I mean, I think everybody does. When you know, we'll get for plainclothes officers, we'll get orders from LEOs or agencies, and most of them are light bearing. Yeah, I mean, you know, they run the TLR1, they run the X300, and they just want to transition it to their plainclothes officers, and or even when they go out, whatever the case is, they're just used to it. And so, yeah, when it comes to law enforcement, military, yeah, light bearing holsters is it, man.
I think a package I'd probably like to see you guys offer and I always give my selfish answer for my own selfish needs, and for people out there. I think you would do very well. And I know we all joke the Leo community never likes to spend money, and it's not a great community to go after, especially but I think I've seen companies have success with doing whether it's inside or outside the waistband holster, cuff, light mag carrier option.
Yeah.
I think something like that at an effective price point can capture a market segment, and I think that there's something there. So to a lot of the holster companies that aren't doing it, I say look at that as an option, especially where you already have the belt, because guys will scour the internet for $100 quick fix option that gets them at least a single mag outside the waistband holster, cuff, light. Yes. And they can go off duty and they're good to go.
Yeah, once we get into that market, into the law enforcement military market, we're going to look at all that. We're going to look at, I mean, we may even do a holster for a radio, whatever is necessary for that market, we'll definitely look into it. And if there's an ROI, if there's something that can definitely bring in more sales, yeah, for sure, man. I mean, that's definitely something that we would do. Right now, we're just so focused on just just the market in general, and a lot of people don't run lights. If somebody was walking down, the aisle at a Gander Outdoor, that man's just looking for a holster to protect his family, or he's just looking for a holster that he can keep his gun in. That man probably doesn't know what an M-Force light is or what an X300 is. So there are 2 totally different markets, John. And yeah, if we attack the law enforcement military market, then definitely that's going to be something that we're going to have to do.
Now, let everybody know where they can find you and how to get in touch with you.
So you can go to Bravo Concealment, check out our holsters, our everyday concealed carry holsters. They're awesome. We're always having sales. We got free shipping, 30-day money back guarantee, unlimited lifetime warranty. These things are awesome. Go check them out at Bravo. And you can DM me on my Instagram account. I'm there every single day. I got my phone here. I was actually looking at some DMs right now. And if you have any questions or any concerns, or you want to ask me anything, doesn't even have to be gun related or holster related, feel free to drop me a DM, guys. I really want to listen, to hear you guys out. If you guys have any ideas or anything like that, and just basically just start a relationship with you guys. I just feel that that's my duty, and that's my calling, and that's what I need to do. And go check us out on Instagram. We're under Bravo Concealment, and drop me a DM for sure.
And I can attest to the quality of the product and the things you've done over the years. You've always been an innovator. You've always been someone I've looked at and leaned on. I know, to a lot of the listeners and people that pay attention, there's a lot of names I throw around, but for sure, I look at you as someone who's kind of always been a little bit of a mentor from afar and someone that I've paid attention to because you've always been a forward thinker and been an innovator and a guy who does some, honestly, truthfully, some magical shit in the business, to be quite honest with you, because you're just not afraid to try something exciting, new, different, and put yourself out there. So I've always admired you for that. And I can't thank you enough. I mean, to say an hour and a half's enough. It's not. We could go for 9 hours. I know that. It's so much fun. We went down a wormhole. We talked about marketing. We did a master class. Yeah, we haven't even got into so many other particulars and changes in holsters over the years. So many other things. We could spend hours on all that stuff. I had a blast. I can't thank you enough. Honestly, Rene, it's always a pleasure talking to you. And you're like one of my oldest friends in the business that I could pick up the phone, whether we talk once a week or once every month or twice in 6 months. And it's like just coming home and having an easy conversation. So I love you for that. And I appreciate you. And I've appreciated your friendship through the years. So I can't thank you enough.
Thanks, John. I appreciate that, man. Thanks for having me on. It means the world to me. And let's do this again, man. An hour and a half? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
An hour and a half,
we haven't
man.
even
It's
got
only like
into
10 minutes.
holsters and the changes in the market. We haven't got into anything. So
I know,
we'll key this up. We're gonna key this up again. Give it a couple months. Let it get out there, and hopefully your
definitely,
listeners
man.
enjoy
I'd
it.
love to talk. I'd love to talk about concealed carry, man. I do that every day. I think it's super important, man. And we didn't get to that. It was all business, pretty much. And I love that as well. But yeah, man, let's do this again, man. Definitely, John. I really appreciate you, calling me up and asking me to be on. It's an honor, man. I really appreciate it.
No, and I appreciate everyone listening to the podcast. To your listeners, just head over to the John Bartolo Show. It's available on iTunes everywhere podcasts are heard. Head over to Spotify and Podbean if you don't have iTunes. I know I get Apple-centric sometimes. But yeah, it's available on YouTube. I'll try to get this up there so people can maybe see some of the video clips. But yeah, absolutely. Next time, we'll get into politics. We'll get into concealed carry. We'll get into all that stuff. We'll rehash this in 30, 60 days. Let's give everybody this a little time to chew on this, but I appreciate everyone. I appreciate the whole Bravo family. I appreciate you guys.
Thanks, John. Appreciate it, man.
All right, we are out.